if you start thinking about it too much as you're painting, you end up messing up a little bit more. You can fail in that regard. To me, I feel like the less you think about what you're about to do as far as painting it, then
that's about the process, though, and failure is going to be part of it. Things, just like in life, don't go your way, and as creator, you have to roll right through that.
Bebop, Bebop,
Bebop. All right, so I've talked about it before. The internet, such a great place to find other creatives. And recently, I came across the Rolling Pin podcast. I checked out an episode. I liked the flavor of it. It had a good rhythm.
Thank you.
And Gary Foods, he's here, and he was asking some heavy questions on this podcast. And it was about art. And I said, hey, let's record, let's distribute. I like what you're doing. So we're going to do that, and we're going to amplify our microphone. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I want to say thank you first for having me on here. I really do appreciate that. And what intrigued me about El Santos is his art. So that's how we connected. I saw that he painted a wrestler, and it caught my attention because I share art on my page, the Rolling Pin Podcast, for the other artists out there who are doing wrestling art. He had a piece. It was a nice piece, and that's how we connected. On the other half of that, you asked me how I'm doing. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love because I think you saw a Bill Goldberg piece. You commented on it, and then the next day you shared it, and that of course catches another person's attention. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I do that too. And I was thinking about that before we got on here. I remember this conference I went to as a photographer. That's one of my past lives. And the speaker was talking about how she was at like a portfolio review, and it was her and a few other photographers, and then they would look at each other's work and they would just be silent. And she said that was killing her, because everybody was just like, they wouldn't say anything. And so finally she's like, that is beautiful work. And then the whole room starts talking. And
was she like the powerful person, or like who was she? Like
it's just a bunch of artists. They've got their work out, but at the moment the room is just silent. And this happens with creatives. They're just like.
I mean, maybe she was probably like really analyzing the details of it and seeing how it made her feel before she made that statement of it's beautiful.
Well, no. Yeah, what she was getting at is that why wasn't anyone saying anything? Because once she said that, the whole room had an opinion. The whole room is like, yeah, that is cool. And I've learned to do that in person. That was a key moment in my career. That was a long time ago. But I realized, especially during this pandemic, that I probably don't do that enough online. I mean, I do it, I share, but I love the segment you were doing where you were just putting up other people's artwork, and you devoted a whole segment to that. And I actually was going to talk to you about that on this podcast, because I think, Gary Foods and I, we should make a movement out of this. I'll give you total props, but I was thinking, next week, I want to start a segment where I just pick out people that I see around my social media, throw them up there. I will, of course, put Gary Foods up there. I like your art, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I like yours too.
But I think we should. I would like to credit it and make it the Gary Foods movement.
Well, I mean, not just my movement. It's really about everybody else's artwork.
Yeah,
so I know that sharing everybody's artwork is just as important as me sharing my own. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, what's the point of you just having yours? You're not looking at somebody else's and seeing how they do it from their perspective or their viewpoint. You know what I mean? You don't have that's how you gonna have a conversation with somebody around that. You know?
Well, and that's, I say it again and again. That's what art is. It's a conversation. So the question you were asking is, can you fail at art?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that some more?
Yeah, I was asking, can you fail at art? That was one of my questions I asked people who do wrestling art on my Instagram. I asked, can you fail art? And a lot of people said no, but the reason why I was asking is because I failed art in high school. And is that really a course that you should really be failing at? I don't think so. I don't think art. I think when you step into the classroom, it's more like just let it go where it need to go.
That tell me about how did that teacher make that assessment? How did she say?
I probably gotta take accountability for some of it, but for real, I don't want to blame it all the way on her.
I ask because I was kicked out of art class.
I had some disciplinary issues a little bit, but I don't know. I hope people don't correlate that to my artwork. You know what I mean?
We seem to come from a similar place. There's a natural rebelliousness to art, but I think the question is great, and so yeah, I took time to think about your direct question, the way you were phrasing it, and I think you can fail in the way that you approach art. Art is about everyone's voice and how you're using that for expression,
To the canvas? Are you saying to the canvas? Or are you saying just, what type of art are you speaking of? Like the paintbrush?
Just creation.
Oh, in general.
Yeah. I mean, there's different formats. Even what we're doing, the podcast, there's an art to it. If you start to listen to some of these cats that are making content, some of them are really masterful pieces. Even anything that involves expression, can you fail in the act of making that? No.
Yeah, I think you can fail. I think you can fail if you think about it too much. I think if you start thinking about it too much as you're painting, you end up messing up a little bit more. You can fail in that regard. To me, I feel like the less you think about what you're about to do as far as painting it, then
that's about the process, though, and failure is going to be part of it. Things, just like in life, don't go your way, and as creator, you have to roll right through that.
True.
That's true. I think back. So I forget how long I've been doing this, how long I've been making art, how long I've been making a living at it. And my apprehensions are different than they were when I was a younger man, a younger artist. And so I'm realizing lately, especially doing these conversations, that I've lost touch with some of those apprehensions, or some.
What's the difference? What's your difference between your art now versus it back then? Like, have you changed up anything since you were young up until now?
Yeah, I mean, with age, you naturally get more confident. I'm not worried about anything anymore as far as criticism, narrative. I go in here and I make what I want. You and I connect on the wrestling art level. That's one subset of my projects.
I like that.
And for me, I just feel that you get deeper into your career and you learn to organize it more. The number one thing for me is you have to do what makes you happy. That is why I have a whole section devoted to wrestling, because that's something that I love. And I grew up loving it. I still I still mainly watch the older product.
As far as what, the WWF or which one? What era? What era you currently watch, or did you watch the most?
I bounce around, and then I'll peep in to see what the new product is. But I'm just it's such a long history. I was actually listening to a podcast, Matt Miscellaneous, and so he's starting this podcast in the 1870s in the USA when wrestling started. And so
he goes back into the past, like, and then he like does like he dresses up as like. How far does it go? To what extent?
No, it's an audio podcast, so it's the history of it, and he's going very in detail right now. He just did the first episode, and I just listened to it tonight. But it's January through March in 1870, and these were the first, I think, matches that we have documentation of that were on a card and had press, and so
he's going historic with it.
So there's just such a deep past to look at, and that's what's cool about the WWE network is most of that is archived there.
Yeah.
So I'll bounce around eras. Sometimes I'll be watching stuff from the 70s. I wish there was even more vintage matches.
Like how far back, like black and white far back, like how far back? Like,
that would be awesome. I would love to watch that. Like even yeah, like I don't know if you saw the like Bret Hart's his kind of anthology, I guess, that they did. But there was
I seen the Bret Hart. I don't know if it was the 30 for 30, but it was a history of how Bret Hart kind of got his start on the Stu Hart and went through that whole progression into the WWE all the way to when Vince McMahon, how he had trust for Vince McMahon all the way to the point of him not having trust for Vince McMahon anymore after the whole Montreal Screwjob incident. They had all of that on there, you know what I mean? They kind of showed like how it was affecting him at home, like it's, at home life and whatnot. But that's what I saw.
Yeah. This was a collection of matches, and there was one of him and Dynamite Kid, and it was a really long match, but it was fascinating to watch because it was just a different era, and the product was different versus today's is different, and it's interesting in its own way.
I got you.
It's its own art that it all folds together. There's a reason you and I are drawn to this.
Yeah,
spectacle. It's an art. These are people who take on superhero personas and go out there and take ridiculous risks to entertain us. So how long have you been painting? Like, and what made you say, hey, I'm going to start paying homage and putting this to paint?
I say like 2020 was the start of me actually painting with like a paintbrush and like, really get serious about it. But as far as drawing, that's to answer your question, but drawing from forever, and I kind of like transitioned drawing into painting. You know what I mean? I try to make that switch, and I start painting with the paintbrush.
Yeah.
So
no, that's awesome. That's how it starts, isn't it?
I mean, if you was drawing as a kid and you knew that's something that you was able to do, that you was pleased with your work back then, it's like, it's one thing you don't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
As you get older, it's like, what happened to that? You don't want to ask that question.
Yeah. So, what are you? You make the pieces? Are you marketing them? Are you trying to sell them? Or
no, I'm not looking to sell. That wasn't my goal coming in with the art. I wasn't looking to sell anything. You know what I mean? As far as what I created. Now, if somebody asks, now that's another story. Nobody's really asking anything like that. But I haven't really been trying to solicit any art pieces because I just want to take the time to just.
And I asked the question because I see you creating, and what happens is you build up a museum of your own work, and so it'll be a consideration soon if you keep it at this pace.
Thank you. I mean,
that's how it starts, Gary.
I see. I'm looking at yours in the background. You got a lot of pieces yourself in the background. So
this is a small section, and a friend of mine taught me that you should build your inventory up, because then if somebody asks you to do a show, you have a show ready to go. It's not a problem.
I got you.
If you want to go out to market, you have a bunch of inventory. During this time, I'm learning that I have the inventory is really nice, because what I'm doing is marketing it online, and it's like having a stock reservoir of artwork that if somebody buys it, I just go and find it wherever I store it, put it in the mail, and it's off. And
how many pieces?
They're going.
How many pieces would you say you had? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, as far as
like just all the pieces that you have as far as canvas work, how many pieces would you know, or do you like have inventory to that level, or is it just like I collect? Because I don't know how many pieces I have. I should count.
Yeah, no, I don't. I know how many pieces I have listed online, and that's around. It's nearing 400.
I got you.
That are online. As far as how many pieces I actually have, I don't know, because pre-COVID was a different place. I was out there, I was doing shows, and so you just constantly produce, take it to the shows, and really with like I'm a single father of 3 children, 5 and under, and so yeah, inventory and that type of stuff just got put behind. and I don't know, it just wasn't a priority. That's what I like about selling stuff online is it kind of forces you to do that.
Yeah, it makes it easier too.
Much, and it's cool because like I ship things all over the world. And I wasn't doing that last, pre-COVID. I wasn't doing that as much.
Yeah, COVID changing the game. How everybody's doing things.
But I'm warning you, if you continue this art making, you're gonna start shipping stuff, Gary. So be prepared.
Hey, if it's in the calling cards,
it's your stuff's cool. I like it.
If it's in the calling cards, then so be it. But yeah.
It will not be long.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So, tell me about the podcast then. So you started making this stuff, but it wasn't necessarily to sell. What was the interest in? Because it's a wrestling themed podcast, but it has an art slant to it. And like I said, you're asking really cool questions, and I encourage that because I think it's great. It's a great part of the conversation.
Yeah, I never like really knew what to channel all my energy into to be efficient. As far as like what industry or whatnot that would really intrigue me. But then wrestling came to my attention for various reasons. Some are mine, some others, mostly mine, you know what I mean? And I just remember back, like, I used to watch wrestling with my great-grandmother, but not all wrestling with my great-grandmother. It was more so with the video games. She watched me play video games. That was WrestleMania 2000. Got it right here. Hopefully, I was right here, WrestleMania 2000. That's why I keep it on my desk. This is where it really all started for me. My great grandmother like really watched me play that. So I used to hit pause and like watch and like do one move, but like I would have to call her from all the way on the other side of the house to show her one move, and it took her like 30 minutes to get from one side of the place to the other side to see a 5-second move. You know what I mean? So that's my number one. That's my main motivator for why I started. 2020, as far as COVID, really got me pushed in that direction. You know what I mean? Because I thought we were gonna be trapped in the and wherever we reside. You know, I thought they were going to be like no more outside world. We didn't know how serious it was going to be. You know what I mean? And I thought it was going to be serious. I said I can't just sit around just on the couch when COVID is going on, like and the world shutting down. I need to be doing something to make sure we, you know what I'm saying, keep shit alive, keep shit going. You know what I mean? So I started the Rolling Pin podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think so many things like this creatively have emerged from this time. I keep saying that this will be like a renaissance period of creativity. There will be so much that comes out um, because I guess it's not what I don't know. I'm still keeping quarantine to a degree.
Yeah.
So
Social distancing and all that.
My focus is all on this. So like so much more than before, and it makes you think, you know, did I really need to do all that other stuff? And everyone's got their head in this space. Even the idea of commuting in cars, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, I say that to say, you know, it's just all about where you put your attention. Because when the world was open, going to the beach was nice. You know, going to the beach was nice. Going to the movies was nice too. That's all nice stuff. But when you can't do it, you gotta adapt to other nice shit. You know, so.
Well, and that's the thing about adaptability. All this stuff is nice too. It's nice that you put together the Rolling Pin podcast.
Thank you.
I love that. That maybe wouldn't exist otherwise.
I say that to myself all the time.
Your head and your attention would have been somewhere else. And so I think in a strange way, we owe some gratitude to the situation.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. I can't even lie. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So, the process of painting, that's pretty recent for you. What was it like to dig into that first piece? Do you remember?
The first piece I did was Macho Man Randy Savage. And I gotta say, like when I first did it, to transition from the sketch pad over to the canvas, I started with a pencil first. You know what I mean? Because I thought that would be the easiest way to kind of get the image that I need on the canvas in the most comfortable way that I know how. You know what I mean? So I started with a pencil and I just did it that way. And then I really focused more so on the coloring piece of painting first. You know what I mean? Like trying to really play with the color to see how you can get a face out of something with different tones. You know what I mean? And that's what I did for the first one. that was my transition. So it was comfortable as far as the drawing. The coloring was more so what I was practicing on. And that's kind of what I'm continuously trying to work on.
But was it magic? Were you hooked?
I was pretty surprised with the way it came out. So I say, yeah, this was good. Then I shared it, and everybody else was like, yeah, that's nice. So I was like, yeah, well, there it is. And I was like, let me just keep doing this, see how good I get.
Yeah, that feeling never goes away, and that's what I love about creating. It's like you make something, and you look at it for whatever moment, and then it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
So, it's good, man. I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. I wouldn't be here if I did.
So what is the and I'm asking as somebody who created a podcast as well. What do you see the vision? Did you have an initial vision, or?
Man, my vision really just be to start and see, because really what a podcast is about is talking about current events. So it's more so about living in the present and focusing on the current. More so than anything, it's always good to have the long term goal in mind, but I kind of keep those in the back of my head while I work day to day. You know what I mean? So that's why I stay.
I think what's interesting about
Yeah.
you're talking about the podcast as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
What is so interesting about it is that all of them are little bits of expression. I was because I started to listen to more of them, and so there was one on Richard Simmons. You know who that is?
That's the is that the guy who do the exercises?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
the wacky, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, this will be hilarious, and I mean the guy was, or he is, quite a character, and this is about how one day he just closed shop and never talked to the rest of the world, and no one's heard from him since. That was about 4 years ago. And so this guy is doing the investigative work. There's interviews, and by the end of it, he says, it was very powerful. He says, I thought I was making this piece about Richard Simmons, but really it was about why he was missing Richard Simmons, because he knew him, it seems, somewhat. And the idea that somebody would just cut off the world like that was traumatizing to him and to Richard's audience. So when we make these things, when we put these things out there, they're an extension of ourself. We can talk about the world, but we're still talking about it from our perspective. Yours, I love, like it said, it has its own flavor. The more you do it, the more it'll grow. And in the process of making these things, like I was kind of like you. I just wanted to put this thing out there, and it's weird to put, just like you put the artwork out, you put it out. We put ourselves out there, and it starts to create something. And isn't that wild?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you put yourself out there and not be a fool about it, then
right.
Everything's good. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm a really positive person.
Yeah,
so I think as long as you roll with that,
yeah, it really is your art speaking for itself. You know what I mean? Honestly, like I would consider that similar to somebody who told me that they read books all the time. Same way you got the art in the background. You know what I mean? Like you got something that you really focus on.
Well, it's all related. You know, what we do is narrative. We're telling a story, even if it's just a representation of somebody. You know, we're making marks with our voices, and that's what makes all of it really cool. What do you think of the encouraging other artists to showcase other artists? You think we can make that a movement?
Yeah, I think if you're doing it from a genuine place, it could definitely be a movement. If you get off here today and you say, I'm gonna just share people's artwork, like they'll be happy with that. You know what I mean?
You'll see a segment pop up from me next week, and it will. I'm gonna give props to Gary Foods, the Rolling Pin podcast, and say I'm just showing love to these people, and then I'm gonna start doing that every week, and I'm gonna encourage other people to do the same, because that's how we all get stronger, and that's how a lot of my career has been. I can't fathom who started the idea that being an artist is limited to being a hobby.
Man, it is what you make it.
This is a career if you want it to be. Now, it doesn't have to be, but for those who think about doing something they don't want to do versus that thing, I think that all artists, we have this uneasiness about not expressing. We need that to come out. We need that to go out into the world. And I think what you did was really cool. You know.
Thank you.
So man, I encourage it, and I love the energy.
Definitely. It's nice to meet you. You know what I mean? I hope that our conversations help each other out. You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
Well, we'll converse more. We'll think about collaboration more.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm always welcome to come on. I'm always down for it, man. Like you do the artwork, you do the wrestling artwork, I do the wrestling artwork. So we'll always connect on that level.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, well, check them out. The Rolling Pin Podcast on Instagram. Are you on any? I saw you had a YouTube channel. Is it the same?
I do have a YouTube channel. If you type in Rolling Pin Podcast on YouTube, it'll pop up. Twitter is where I'm mostly at.
Okay, Twitter. I'll find you.
At Rolling Pin Talk. ROLL. Yeah, Rolling Pin Talk. Rolling Pin Talk.
Check it out. All right, man. You'll be back here because my vision is to see people as they progress, and we'll see what happens in a year from now.
Yeah, man. Only way going forward is forward. You know what I mean? Can't let COVID hold you back.
There you go. No, absolutely not. We do what we do. All right, man. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, man. You be safe.
We're out.
All right.
Bebop.